So why is there an increase in the role of product designer?
So I think the term product design is quite trendy, it's quite faddy at the moment. I think the reason for that is twofold. Like, firstly, it's just natural in startups to try and create these hybrid roles because you're short on people. So typically you'll see product owners and product managers kind of squished together in under one person, really, then responsibilities put into one hat. And you see the same with product designers. So it's expensive to hire a user experience architect, a visual designer, an information architect, whatever, an interaction designer. So it's easier to hire two people that you can call product designers and have them try and put on whatever hat is needed as and when. I think that's partly where it's come from. And secondly, with the kind of more agency side of things, moving away from the retainer model more towards a project-based model, brands are starting to see the value more in products as a service and things like this, and as a result they're hiring more product designers or just retitling people as product designers just to try and make it clear to their clients that they do have a product offering.
A multi-skilled designer is more beneficial in a company than, say, a set UX designer or a set UI designer.
I think it depends on the diet of work, really. Ultimately, a good team will have both generalists and specialists. So by that I mean everyone may or may not be called product designers, but they will ultimately have some people that are that kind of broad umbrella of skills that can dive in and out. The benefit of that compared to a specialist, of course, is that it gives you the flexibility. So particularly in a startup environment where week to week or sprint to sprint, the work may be very visual heavy one week versus very research heavy the next. So you want those kind of generalists to be able to dive in and out very quickly and easily. On the other hand, you need specialists because when you do have a more complex project where you need very robust user experience methodologies such as user testing, experience mapping, that type of thing, you're never going to get a generalist product designer that's also a bit of a coder and a bit of a visual designer that can do that with the same level of rigor as a dedicated user experience architect that may have 5 or 10 years experience doing it. For people that are more junior, there is a slight danger going into a product design role. You might hear people talk about T-shaped or M-shaped skill sets, and the idea is that you have this kind of broad base of knowledge that may span multiple disciplines, but you also have these like stems, like the T or the M's, of areas of expertise. And I think once you've got like 10, 15, 20 years experience, it's easy to be able to have these multiple stems. But as a junior going into a product design role, it's very, very easy just to be building out that kind of top umbrella without really narrowing and focusing. And there's a danger, of course, that you go into a startup but don't even understand what user experience is or what visual design really could be. And as a result, you don't get that nurturing development that you would somewhere where that knowledge does exist. So I think if you are considering a product design role, as I mentioned, just make sure you ask those questions in the interview. Make sure you have an idea in your head of where you want to be in 3 to 5 years, and make sure you ascertain during that interview process the company you're joining as a product designer, understand the difference between UX, IX, VD, and they have a very clear route that you can follow to get to where you want to be. For me, the future of product design is about achieving clarity. So right now it's so ambiguous, and there's already a lot of ignorance in the industry about the nuances of different disciplines between UX, visual design, interaction design, and the nomenclature of product design only muddies those waters even further, not only for businesses and companies, but for practitioners themselves. So I suspect what we'll see is it will continue to rise in popularity, and then there will inevitably be some sort of backlash around it, probably in a couple of years when companies start to realise that hiring product designers means they're severely lacking in UX or whatever it is. And I think it's just like a part 2 to this issue of visual designers trying to portray themselves as user experience architects to justify a higher salary. The nomenclature of product designer just gives them a really, really easy way of doing that. That's a big problem in the industry right now, and one that I hope goes away. And yeah, I think probably not so much in the startup world, because there will still be this need to hybridise roles, but in bigger organisations you will, I think, start to see some clarity form as people start to delineate the role of user experience architect and visual designer again, and realise that there are very specific responsibilities that each involve that the other does not. So yeah, I think that's what we're going to see.